The woods swallowed her laughter. It happened so suddenly that neither Emily nor David had time to react. One moment, their 8-year-old daughter Lily was chasing fireflies between the oaks, her small sneakers crunching over pine needles. The next, there was only silence. A heavy, unnatural silence, as if the entire forest had paused to listen. "Lily," Emily's voice trembled as she rose from the checkered picnic blanket. The late afternoon light slanted low, staining the woods in bruised gold. She strained to hear an answer, any trace of her daughter's giggle. David frowned, standing tall, scanning the darkening tree line. She couldn't have gone far. His words carried false confidence. They both knew Lily had a habit of wandering, but this was different. The stillness pressed against them like a weight. Emily called again, louder this time. "Lily, come back, sweetheart." No reply. They hurried into the woods, following the faint impressions of small footprints that cut through damp soil. A discarded ribbon from Lily's hair dangled from a low branch, swaying slightly in the breeze. Emily's chest tightened. She snatched it, clutching it to her chest. "Lily!" David barked, his deep voice echoing through the trees. A crow startled, flapping violently into the air. Otherwise, nothing moved. They pressed deeper, hearts pounding, branches clawing their arms. Then David froze. "Emily, look." At the base of a crooked tree lay a doll. It was hideous, its porcelain face stained and cracked, its dress rotted into tatters. One glass eye was missing, the other stared upward, reflecting the dying light. Its hair, dark and matted, hung in clumps. Emily recoiled instinctively. "That wasn't there before." David crouched, reaching hesitantly. The doll lay precisely where Lily's footprints ended, as if it had been waiting. He lifted it, and Emily gasped. It was heavier and it should have been, its limbs stiff but strangely warm, as though it had been alive only moments earlier. David turned it over in his hands. Maybe someone left it here. Some sick joke. Emily shook her head violently, panic rising in her throat. "That's Lily's dress." He glanced closer. The doll's faded fabric was indeed patterned with tiny yellow flowers, identical to the sundress their daughter had worn that morning. The neckline was torn in the same place Lily's had been when Emily fastened it. Her legs went weak. She stumbled back. "David, no." The air thickened, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic. David tried to speak but faltered. His knuckles whitened as he held the doll. "It's not her," he whispered, but his voice cracked, betraying him. Emily stepped forward despite herself. The doll's remaining glass eye caught the light and gleamed. For an instant, she thought she saw it flicker, like something inside was straining to look back at her. Her stomach churned. "Put it down," she begged. But David couldn't. His arms locked around it as though letting go would be more dangerous than holding on. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening. The silence grew unbearable. Somewhere behind them, faint and distant, a child's laugh rang out, high, fragile, familiar. Emily spun toward the sound, her heart leaping with desperate hope. "Lily!" But the laugh cut off abruptly, leaving only the echo of its impossibility. And in David's arms, the doll's cracked porcelain lips curved upward into the faintest impossible smile. Emily refused to let the thing into their car, but David wouldn't leave it behind. He cradled the doll as if it were their missing daughter, his face pale, sweat shining at his temples. The forest was already cloaked in dusk when they stumbled back toward the roadside. Emily couldn't stop shaking. "This isn't right," she whispered. "That thing doesn't belong to us." David didn't answer. His jaw was tight, his steps mechanical. By the time they reached their house, night had settled. The neighborhood looked unnervingly ordinary, porch lights glowing, sprinklers hissing. But Emily felt an oppressive wrongness clinging to her like cobwebs. She unlocked the door with trembling hands, wanting only to collapse, to wake from this nightmare. Instead, she froze in the hallway, watching David carry the doll upstairs as though it belonged in Lily's room. "Stop!" she cried. "Don't put it in there. Please, David." He halted at the threshold. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he turned, setting the doll gently on the living room couch instead. Its cracked face gleamed faintly in the lamplight. Emily couldn't take her eyes off it. Its single glass eye was fixed on her, unblinking. Trying to shake the dread, she busied herself, filling a kettle, forcing her hands to move. She told herself they needed to stay calm, that Lily might still be out there, that this hideous doll was a distraction. Yet when the kettle began to whistle, she realized David was still standing motionless, staring down at the thing. "Emily," he said softly. "Feel it." "No, I'm serious. It's warm." Against every instinct, Emily stepped closer. Her skin crawled as she reached out, brushing her fingers against its porcelain arm. She jerked back instantly. The surface was not smooth like ordinary ceramic. It felt faintly pliant beneath the cracks, like skin stretched too tight. She clutched her hand to her chest. Oh God. David sat heavily in the armchair, his head in his hands. What if it's her? What if this is all we have left? Emily wanted to scream at him, to deny it, but her throat tightened around the words, because part of her, the smallest, darkest part, believed it too. The house seemed to grow colder as night deepened. Emily left the living room lamp on, refusing to sit in total darkness. Hours passed. She dozed uneasily on the couch across from the doll. At some point past midnight, a sound stirred her awake. A faint tap, tap, tap. Her eyes flew open. The doll was no longer upright on the couch. It had slumped forward, head tilted, its tiny porcelain hand now resting against the coffee table. Tap, tap, tap. It was knocking its fingers slowly, rhythmically, against the wood. Emily scrambled backward, colliding with the end table. Her cry jolted David awake from where he'd collapsed in the chair. He blinked at the scene, disbelief hardening into horror. The doll's glass eye swiveled toward Emily. She saw it. She knew she did. It wasn't imagination. And then, clear as a bell, a sound seeped from its cracked mouth. A whisper, soft and childlike. "Mommy." Emily's scream tore through the silence. The scream brought the neighbors. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights painted the quiet suburban street. Emily sat wrapped in a blanket on the porch, her hands trembling as she tried to explain. David stood nearby, pale and stiff, his eyes fixed on the open living room window. Two uniformed officers stepped inside. One of them, Officer Hale, moved with a casual skepticism that made Emily's stomach twist. "So, you're telling me your daughter disappeared? And you found a doll in the woods?" Emily nodded, her voice weak. "Not just a doll. It spoke to me." In her voice. The younger officer glanced at Hale, barely suppressing a smirk. Hale sighed and scribbled in his notebook. "Ma'am, stress can make the mind play tricks. We've seen it before. Parents hear what they want to hear." David bristled. "You think we're making this up? Go look at it yourself." Reluctantly, they followed him into the living room. The doll sat where Emily had last seen it, stiff on the couch, one hand crooked unnaturally forward. Its cracked porcelain face looked lifeless, yet Emily swore it seemed to shift whenever she blinked. "There," David pointed. "That's what was left behind where Lily vanished. That dress, it's hers." Hale crouched, peering at the doll with disinterest. He lifted the hem of the rotted fabric. "Plenty of dolls have dresses like this. Doesn't prove anything." Emily's patience snapped. She dropped to her knees beside him, grabbing the doll's arm. "Look closer. The mole, on its cheek, right there." And there it was, a small, perfectly round mark beneath the cracked eye, identical to the birthmark Lily had carried since birth. Hale's expression faltered. He leaned in, frowning, then straightened quickly. "Coincidence. Someone's playing a cruel prank." But the younger officer's face had drained of color. He whispered, "It feels warm." Emily met his gaze, relief mixed with terror. "Yes, it's alive." "Enough," Hale barked. "We'll open a missing persons case, but this," he gestured sharply to the doll, "is not evidence of anything supernatural." They left soon after, promising to alert search teams for the woods at dawn. Their words felt empty, rehearsed. As the patrol car drove away, silence settled again. David paced the floor, fists clenched. "They don't believe us." Emily hugged herself, eyes never leaving the doll. Its head had shifted slightly, angled now toward the hallway. "It doesn't matter what they believe," she whispered. "We know." The hours crawled by. Sleep was impossible. Emily sat rigid on the couch, fighting tears, while David chain-smoked on the porch. Every so often she thought she heard faint sounds, whispers curling from the doll's lips, the flutter of breath behind porcelain. At 3 a.m, unable to bear it, Emily leaned closer. The doll's glass eye gleamed in the lamp's glow, its lips parted ever so slightly. She pressed her ear near. A voice slipped out, muffled, fragile. "Mommy, it's dark. Mommy, I'm stuck." Emily reeled back, choking on a sob, and this time David heard it too. David had always been the rational one. He believed in what could be touched, measured, explained, but after that night, after hearing Lily's voice bleed through the cracked porcelain, his certainty fractured. He barely spoke the next morning, sitting at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. Emily paced the floor, glancing again and again at the living room couch where the doll sat propped against a cushion. Neither of them had dared move it. "David," Emily whispered, "we can't just leave her like that." He lifted his eyes, bloodshot from lack of sleep. "It's not her, Em. It can't be." "Then what did we hear?" Her voice cracked. "That was Lily. I know it." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the tick of the wall clock. By late afternoon, exhaustion weighed heavy, but Emily refused to rest. She cleaned, she folded, she distracted herself with meaningless tasks, anything to avoid looking at the couch. Yet her gaze always returned, and every time she swore the doll had shifted. At first it was small things, the tilt of its head, a new angle of its glass eye. She dismissed it, telling herself she'd imagined it, but then, while folding laundry, she glanced over and froze. The doll was no longer on the couch. It sat upright in the recliner across the room, its stiff hands placed neatly on the armrests, as though it had been seated there deliberately. Emily's breath caught. "David!" He rushed in from the hallway, irritation turning to horror when he saw it. "How?" He stopped, swallowing hard. "You moved it." "I didn't." The color drained from his face. He crossed the room, snatched the doll, and stormed upstairs. Emily chased after him, panic spiking. "What are you doing?" He shoved open Lily's bedroom door. The air inside was stale, untouched since she vanished. Her stuffed animals lined the bed, her drawings still taped to the wall without. A word, David placed the doll on the pillow. Its cracked face stared up at the ceiling, glassy eye reflecting the pastel stars Emily had painted there years ago. "There," he said hoarsely. "That's where it belongs. Maybe it'll stop if we treat it like her." Emily covered her mouth, horrified. "You can't put it in there. This is her room, not what?" he snapped. "Not hers?" His voice wavered. "If it is her, then she should be here. If it's not, then it's just porcelain." The argument died on Emily's lips. She felt watched, suffocated by the cracked smile on the bed. That night, Emily woke to a soft sound upstairs. A creak, a shuffle. Her heart hammered as she crept toward Lily's room. She pressed her ear to the door. Inside, something moved. With trembling hands, she turned the knob. The doll sat on the bed, but not where David had left it. Its porcelain arms were wrapped tightly around Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, clutching it to its chest. Emily's stomach twisted. Then its glass eye rolled slowly toward her. And for the first time, Emily didn't just hear Lily's voice. She saw her lips move. "Mommy." Emily staggered back from the doorway, her hand clutching the frame for support. The doll's cracked lips had moved. She was certain of it. No trick of light, no auditory illusion. She had seen porcelain split just enough to form the shape of her daughter's voice. Her throat was dry as sand. "David," she whispered hoarsely, though he was still asleep downstairs. The doll sat still again, arms around the stuffed rabbit, glass eye glinting in the faint nightlight glow. Its face looked frozen, empty, but Emily knew better now. She backed away, shutting the door quietly, and ran to the staircase. Her legs shook as she shook David awake. "It spoke," she gasped. "It moved its lips. It called me Mommy." David rubbed his eyes, groaning. "You're exhausted, Em. You're seeing things." Her nails dug into his arm. "I saw it." Something in her trembling voice silenced him. His skepticism cracked under the weight of her desperation. Without a word, he followed her upstairs. The bedroom was silent when they entered. The doll still sat propped against the pillows, rabbit pressed tightly to its chest. David leaned close, his jaw tight. For long minutes, nothing happened. Emily's breath came fast and shallow. Her mind screamed that it wouldn't do it now, not when they needed proof. Then, so faintly she thought she'd imagined it, a whisper curled into the air. "Mommy." David stiffened. His eyes widened. The sound had been unmistakable. Lily's small, tired voice. The whisper came again, longer this time. "Mommy, it's cold." Emily's tears spilled. She rushed forward, collapsing to her knees beside the bed. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." The doll's head tilted, a stiff, jerking motion. Its glass eye swiveled to look directly at her, and then it spoke once more, the sound muffled as though from behind a wall. "Help me!" David swore under his breath, stumbling back. He pressed a hat, and to his mouth, horror dawning across his face. Emily reached out, brushing trembling fingers against the porcelain cheek. "We'll get you out, Lily. I promise." The doll twitched. Its tiny, cracked hand lifted inch by inch toward hers. The stuffed rabbit slid to the side as the arm extended, joints creaking unnaturally. Then its fingers closed around Emily's wrist. She screamed. The grip was crushing, stronger than anything so small should be. Cold radiated through her skin. David rushed forward, prying the porcelain fingers apart with all his strength until the doll's hand finally slackened. Emily stumbled back, gasping. Red marks burned on her wrist where it had held her. David's voice trembled. "That's not Lily." "Yes, it is!" Emily cried, clutching her wrist. "She's trapped. She's begging for help." The doll lay still once more, but the rabbit's ear twitched where porcelain fingers had been, and from the cracks in its lips, a whisper seeped, faint but relentless. "Mommy, mommy, mommy." The word looped endlessly, soft as a chant. Emily fell against the wall, sobbing. She could no longer deny it. The doll wasn't just alive. It was her daughter. The whispering didn't stop. All night, the doll's cracked mouth leaked Lily's voice, faint but insistent. Emily lay curled on the hallway floor outside her daughter's room, listening, unable to walk away. Every syllable was a hook in her chest. By dawn, the chant had changed. Instead of repeating "mommy," it became fragmented sentences, broken and muffled, as though buried beneath layers of dirt. "Can't breathe. Hurts. Help me." Emily pressed her palms over her ears, tears streaming. David had locked himself in the kitchen, chain-smoking, refusing to go near the doll again. His denial had crumbled, but he clung to silence, as if ignoring it could erase the truth. By mid-morning, Emily's exhaustion gave way to determination. She carried a chair into Lily's room and sat directly across from the doll. Its glass eye caught the sunlight filtering through the curtains, gleaming like a watchful sentinel. "Lily," Emily whispered, leaning forward. "Can you hear me?" The porcelain head twitched. Its jaw cracked open wider than before. The voice that seeped out was clearer, sharp with desperation. "Mommy, please." Her breath hitched. "It's me, baby. I'm right here." "Dark," the doll rasped. "So dark. Cold." Emily's stomach clenched. She reached out again despite the bruises on her wrist. "Where are you? Tell me how to help." The doll's eye rolled strangely, as though straining against invisible force. "Trapped. Inside. Can't get out." Emily's sob choked her. She cupped its cold porcelain hand in both of hers. "We'll find a way. I promise." Behind her, the door creaked. David entered, face gaunt from sleeplessness. He froze at the sight of Emily clutching the doll like a child. Stop. Listen to yourself." She looked up sharply, fury blazing. "She's alive, David. She's speaking to us. How can you deny that?" He swallowed, staring at the doll. Its lips opened a gain, releasing a moan that carried unmistakable pain. David staggered back, shaking his head. "That thing, it's wrong. Maybe it sounds like her. Maybe it even knows things only she'd know. But it isn't our daughter. It can't be." The doll's head jerked violently, its cracked cheek splitting further. Beneath the fracture, Emily saw something horrifying. A sliver of soft, pale flesh pressing outward like skin forced through plaster. David cursed, stumbling into the doorframe. Emily gasped but didn't let go. Her shaking fingers brushed the fissure. The flesh was warm. "God," she whispered. "She's in there." The doll screamed suddenly, a shrill, piercing sound that rattled the windows. Emily dropped it in shock, clapping her hands over her ears. The scream rose and rose, echoing like a siren before cutting off abruptly. When silence returned, the doll lay twisted on its side, its porcelain lips frozen in an open grimace. David's chest heaved. "We can't keep it here." "We're not throwing her away," Emily snapped, scooping the doll into her arms. Its single eye locked onto hers again, and faintly, weakly, the voice returned. "Don't leave me." Emily rocked it against her chest like a baby, ignoring her husband's horrified stare. "I won't, Lily. I won't ever leave you." For the first time since their daughter vanished, she believed those words. By the third day, the doll's whispers had grown stronger, more articulate. Emily barely left Lily's room, tending to it as if it were her daughter's body rather than a grotesque shell. David avoided the upstairs altogether, nursing whiskey at the kitchen table until his hands stopped trembling. But even he couldn't ignore what Emily found. She had gone digging through old boxes in the attic, searching for anything that might explain what was happening. Between faded photo albums and moldy yearbooks, she discovered a stack of yellowed newspaper clippings bundled with twine. They weren't hers, nor David's. Someone had placed them there long before they moved into the house. Her hand shook as she unfolded the first article. Another child gone in Bramble Woods. The date was 35 years earlier. The story told of a boy who vanished during a summer picnic. Search teams scoured the forest for weeks but found nothing, except a doll left at the site. Emily's chest tightened. She read on, pulling article after article from the stack. Every few years, another disappearance. Always the woods, always a child, and always a doll. By the time David stumbled upstairs, reeking of smoke and alcohol, Emily had covered the attic floor with the clippings. He froze in the doorway. "What is this?" "Proof," she said hoarsely. She thrust one of the papers at him. "We're not the first. It's happened before, dozens of times." David scanned the page, his expression hardening. "That doesn't mean. It means she's trapped by whatever took those children. It means there's a pattern, a curse, a ritual, something binding them." Emily's voice cracked. "Lily isn't gone. She's in there because the woods put her in there." The doll's voice rose from behind her, faint but eager, as if responding to her words. "Yes, Mommy. Help." David flinched, glaring at the thing. "Stop calling that monster our daughter." Emily rounded on him, trembling with fury. "Don't you dare! That's her! You heard her! You saw the flesh inside! She's still fighting!" The doll's lips parted again. "Cold. So cold. Mommy, don't let him leave me." David's hands curled into fists. For a moment, Emily thought he would smash it then and there. But he turned away, pacing. "So what do we do? Huh? If this has been happening for decades, how come no one ever stopped it?" Emily held up another clipping, an article about a grieving father who claimed he'd spoken to his missing daughter through a doll. The man had vanished soon after. His wife was later found wandering the woods, incoherent, clutching porcelain shards. "They tried," Emily whispered, "and they failed." The doll emitted a weak sob, muffled through its cracked face. Emily gathered it into her arms again, ignoring the revulsion crawling across David's features. "We won't fail," she said fiercely. "There has to be a way to break the ritual, to bring her back." David sank onto the attic stairs, staring at the floor. And what if the only way to break it is to give the woods something in return? The question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Emily tightened her grip on the doll, its cold weight pressing into her chest. Somewhere deep in the woods outside, faint and mocking, a child's laugh echoed. David waited until Emily finally slept, slumped against Lily's bed with the doll clutched tightly to her chest. He stood in the hallway, jaw clenched, heart pounding. He couldn't take another hour of its whispers bleeding through the walls. He had made up his mind. Carefully, he crept into the room. Emily stirred but did not wake. The doll's single glass eye caught the glow of the nightlight as he pried it gently from her arms. For a moment, its porcelain lips twitched as if resisting. "Daddy." The voice seeped, faint and accusing. David nearly dropped it, but he swallowed hard, steeled himself, and carried it from the house. Outside, the night air was sharp and cold. The woods loomed at the edge of the neighborhood, black silhouettes under a sliver of moon. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, to turn back, but his legs carried him forward, crunching over fallen leaves. He didn't know what he expected. Maybe if he returned it to where it came from, the nightmare would end. Maybe the woods would release Lily, or maybe the doll would vanish, and with it the sick illusion that his daughter still lingered inside. The trees closed in, branches clawing. His flashlight beam bobbed over roots and moss. He remembered the spot where they had found it, the crooked tree with gnarled roots like a hand clawing from the earth, and there it was, waiting. David set the doll down at its base, his breath ragged. "Take it back," he hissed into the darkness. "Take it and give me my daughter." The woods did not answer, only the chirp of insects and the wind sighing through dead leaves. Then the doll screamed. It was Lily's voice, raw and agonized, a sound that split the night. David stumbled back, hands over his ears. The scream grew louder, shaking the trees, rattling the ground beneath him. Cracks spiderwebbed across its porcelain face, glowing faintly from within. "Daddy! Don't leave me!" it shrieked. "It hurts!" David's stomach lurched. He fell to his knees, torn between horror and paternal instinct. His trembling hands hovered above it, not daring to touch, not daring to leave. The roots of the crooked tree began to writhe. Soil split as they twisted upward, curling around the doll like fingers. The ground heaved, swallowing it inch by inch. "No!" David lunged forward, clawing at the earth, yanking the doll free before the roots could drag it under. Its glass eye rolled frantically, locking onto his. "Don't let them take me!" David staggered back, cradling the abomination against his chest. The roots withdrew slowly, almost sulking, and the forest went still again. His body shook with adrenaline. He wanted to throw it away, to smash it into pieces, but he couldn't, because in its muffled cries, anguished, terrified, he still heard his little girl. By the time he stumbled back through the yard, dawn was breaking. Emily waited on the porch, pale, her eyes wide with betrayal. "You took her," she whispered. David couldn't meet her gaze. He pressed the trembling doll into her arms. "She's not safe out there," he said, his voice hollow. "The woods want her back." Emily didn't yell at him. She didn't cry or demand answers. She only gathered the doll into her arms like a child returning from surgery, stroking its hairless porcelain scalp as though it might soothe the thing inside. David watched from the kitchen doorway, hollow-eyed. He had seen the forest move. He had seen the roots writhe like living arms. Something ancient wanted their daughter, and he'd nearly delivered her to it. But now, the doll had changed. At first it was subtle, a thin crack widening along the jawline, a small fissure on its forehead that hadn't been there before. Emily insisted it was progress. "She's trying to get out," she whispered, pressing her ear to its mouth. David wasn't convinced. Flesh didn't belong inside porcelain. Whatever they were nursing, it wasn't human. That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The house creaked in odd rhythms, like footsteps pacing overhead. Emily had insisted on letting the doll sleep in Lily's bed, tucked beneath her old quilt. He refused to share the room, choosing the couch downstairs. Sometime past midnight, a sound jolted him upright. Crack. It echoed through the house like a bone snapping. He held his breath. Another crack followed, sharper, then a muffled sob. "Mommy, it hurts." David's stomach lurched. He crept upstairs, heart hammering. The bedroom door was ajar, spilling faint light from the nightlight. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, rocking the doll against her chest. But David froze at what he saw. The doll's face was splitting. Long fissures spread like lightning across its porcelain surface, glowing faintly from within. And through the cracks, something moist pressed outward. Pink, quivering flesh, twitching as if desperate to breathe. Emily whispered soothingly, "It's okay, baby. You're almost free." The doll's glass eye rolled wildly, half detached, dangling on the verge of falling out. Beneath the widening hole was something disturbingly human, a bloodshot eyeball, wet and darting, staring straight at David. He staggered back, bile rising. "That's not Lily!" Emily whipped her head toward him, feral. "Don't you say that!" The doll convulsed violently in her arms. A sharp crack split its torso, and a small, pale hand burst through, fingernails ragged and bloody, clutching Emily's blouse. She gasped, tears flooding her face. "See?" she cried. "She's coming back!" David's skin crawled. The hand wasn't right. Its proportions were twisted, fingers too long, joints bent unnaturally. Yet the doll clung to Emily, sobbing in Lily's voice. "Mommy, help me out, please. It hurts." The room filled with the reek of iron and damp earth. David gagged, covering his nose. He stumbled backward, but the doll's head jerked toward him, its cracked mouth spreading wider than before. "Daddy," it moaned. "Don't leave me." He turned and fled down the hallway, his wife's cries chasing after him. He collapsed onto the couch, trembling, and buried his face in his hands. Somewhere upstairs, wood splintered. A scream tore from Emily's throat, half terror, half joy. The doll was breaking open, and whatever was inside was almost free. By morning, the house reeked of iron and mildew. David hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard it. The sound of porcelain splitting, the wet rasp of flesh pressing through cracks. When he finally climbed the stairs, the sight that met him stopped his heart. Emily sat cross-legged on Lily's bed, her nightgown streaked with blood. In her lap lay the half-broken doll. Its torso had split open from sternum to hip, jagged porcelain curling like shattered shell. Inside, slick skin glistened. A thin arm, too small, too pale, hung limp against Emily's thigh. She stroked it tenderly. "She's almost out." David gripped the doorframe to steady himself. "Emily, that thing is not Lily. Look at it." Emily raised her eyes, wild and sleepless. "I am looking. She's fighting her way back to us. Don't you hear her?" The doll's cracked mouth twitched. "Mommy?" it croaked. David's chest tightened. The voice still sounded exactly like Lily's, pained, fragile, pleading. But as he stepped closer, the stench made him gag. It was the odor of rot, damp soil, and something rancid. Emily noticed his recoil. "You don't understand. She's trapped in here. The woods put her in this prison. If we break it, she'll be free." She reached for the nightstand drawer and pulled out a hammer. David's stomach dropped. "Emily, no." But before he could stop her, she brought the hammer down against the doll's porcelain shoulder. It shattered with a deafening crack. A chunk of porcelain clattered across the floor, revealing more glistening flesh beneath. The figure inside writhed, emitting a guttural cry. Emily's tears streaked her cheeks. "She's in pain. I have to help her." She raised the hammer again. David lunged, grabbing her wrist. The hammer slipped from her grasp and fell to the carpet. "You don't know what you're releasing," he shouted. Emily fought him like a wild animal, clawing, biting. "She's our daughter! She's our daughter!" The doll moaned louder, the sound vibrating through the walls. "Mommy, Daddy, please." David's grip weakened. For a fleeting second, doubt pierced his resolve. What if Emily was right? What if Lily was trapped inside? That hesitation cost him. Emily shoved him backward, snatched up the hammer, and swung again. Porcelain shattered. This time, an entire section of the doll's side fell away, and a ribcage, small, fleshy, horribly real, pressed through the opening. Tiny lungs heaved. The wet, ragged sound of breathing filled the room. David's knees buckled. His mind screamed that it was impossible. But there it was. His daughter's chest, rising and falling within a porcelain husk. Emily dropped the hammer, sobbing in relief. She cupped the exposed flesh with trembling hands. "You're almost free, baby. Just a little more." The doll's human eye rolled upward, fixing on David with unmistakable recognition. "Daddy," it whispered again. David staggered back, tears blurring his vision. Every instinct told him to run, to destroy the thing before it finished emerging. But another voice, deep, primal, whispered that if he smashed it now, he would kill Lily. He stood trembling, paralyzed between horror and hope. And upstairs, beneath his wife's frantic sobs, he heard it. The sound of more porcelain beginning to split. The hammer clattered to the floor, forgotten. Emily bent over the doll's splitting shell, cradling its fractured body as though it were a newborn. The room pulsed with the sound of wet, labored breathing. David pressed himself against the wall, paralyzed. The porcelain husk no longer looked like a toy. It was an egg cracking open, and something inside was struggling to crawl free. A jagged fissure split the doll's hip with a sharp snap. A leg, thin, mottled, shivering, pushed out, glistening with blood. Its skin was pale as candle wax, veins traced in blue beneath. The foot twitched, toes curling unnaturally long. Emily sobbed with joy. "That's it, baby. Keep coming." The doll's voice rasped, faint but insistent. "Help." "Me?" David's stomach churned. The smell was unbearable. Wet earth, coppery blood, something sweet and rotten. He gagged, fighting the urge to vomit. "Emily," he croaked. "Stop. Look at it. That's not..." She spun on him, eyes feverish. "Don't you see? She's fighting her way back. Our daughter is in pain and you're standing there like a coward." The figure inside writhed harder. Another crack burst across the porcelain chest. Splinters scattered as more flesh pressed through, this time a face. David staggered forward before he realized it. His knees nearly gave out. It was Lily. Her cheek was smeared with blood, her hair matted and wet. But it was her. His daughter's face pushing through the broken shell, lips trembling, eyes wide with terror. "Daddy," she whimpered. David collapsed to his knees. Tears spilled hot down his cheeks. His whole body screamed to take her, to hold her, to believe. But something was wrong. Her features were distorted, stretched too thin, as if her skin were being pulled in the wrong directions. Emily didn't notice. She stroked the wet strands of hair clinging to Lily's head. "Shh. Mommy's here. You're safe now." The east of Lily's body jerked violently, bones cracking. Her other arm punched through the doll's side, pale fingers clawing the quilt beneath her. She dragged herself forward, grinding porcelain shards into the mattress. With every movement, more of the husk shattered. Soon, half her torso was free, chest heaving, mouth opening and closing with the ragged rhythm of gasps. David crawled closer, torn apart by dread and love. "Lily, baby girl." Her eyes flicked toward him. One human, one still glass. The porcelain socket cracked wider, and the glass eye popped free, clattering to the floor. Beneath it was another wet orb, rolling, unfocused, but alive. David's breath caught. His daughter was truly inside this abomination. But her expression twisted. Her jaw stretched wider than humanly possible. From her throat spilled a guttural wail, layered, part Lily, part something older, hungrier. Emily clutched her tighter. "She's scared. Hold her with me." David hesitated. His heart screamed yes. His instincts screamed no. He reached out anyway, hands trembling, brushing her slimy shoulder. Her skin was freezing, too cold, not like a child's. Lily's head snapped toward him, teeth bared, shrieking his name, and with one final convulsion the rest of her body tore free of the shell. The porcelain shell collapsed in shards across Lily's bed, glittering like broken teeth. What emerged stood trembling, slick with blood and clay, chest heaving with each ragged breath. Emily whispered her daughter's name like a prayer. "Lily." David couldn't move. His mind screamed to run, but his legs refused. He had wanted this moment, had dreamed of it every night since the woods swallowed her. But not like this. Not like this. The girl before them had Lily's face, though paler, sharper, stretched too thin. Her hair clung to her scalp in damp strings. Her eyes, one brown, one clouded gray, blinked sluggishly in the light. "Mommy," she croaked. Her voice trembled with fear. Emily gathered her without hesitation, pressing the girl against her chest. Lily's skin smeared cold blood across her nightgown, but she didn't care. "You're home," she sobbed. "You're safe now." David staggered closer, heart in his throat. "Sweetheart, is it really you?" Lily lifted her head. Her lips parted, trembling, as if to answer. Then her jaw snapped open wider than any child should. A wet, rattling hiss poured out, something too deep, too ancient for her small lungs. Emily stroked her hair. "She's just weak. She's been trapped for days." But David saw it. The way her shoulders twitched unnaturally. The way her fingers curled backward before correcting themselves. His stomach turned cold. This was his daughter. but twisted, infected with something from the woods. Lily shuddered in Emily's arms, eyes rolling back. Her voice broke into 2 layers, her familiar high-pitched whimper, and beneath it, a guttural echo. Cold, hungry. David's pulse hammered. Emily, put her down. No, Emily snarled, clutching the girl tighter. She's our daughter. She needs us. She's not right, David shouted. Lily turned her head sharply toward him. Her cloudy eye focused on him with unnatural intensity. Daddy? The sound melted him. It was her voice, pure, pleading. He fell to his knees, torn apart by grief. But before he could move closer, Lily's mouth split into a grin, too wide, teeth sharp and jagged, gums blackened. The grin didn't belong to his daughter. She lunged. David stumbled back, heart freezing, but she didn't attack. Instead, she collapsed on the floor, body convulsing, thin limbs jerking like a marionette yanked by invisible strings. Emily screamed, kneeling beside her. What's happening? Lily writhed, clawing the floorboards with her nails until they splintered. Her voice shifted rapidly, childlike cries blending with whispers that weren't her own. They're coming, she gasped. Don't let them take me back. The house seemed to groan at her words. Outside, the wind rose, rattling the windows, carrying faint laughter, the same sound they had heard in the woods. Emily clutched Lily's trembling body. We won't let them. We'll protect you. But David's gaze was fixed on the window. Shadows shifted among the trees, darker than night, moving against the wind. His blood ran cold. They're already here, he whispered. And from the woods, the laughter grew louder. The wind battered the house as if it wanted in. Curtains flared inward with every gust, carrying the faint reek of damp soil. David stood frozen at the window, his breath fogging the glass. They were out there. Shapes moved between the trees, too large, too misshapen to be deer. Every few seconds, something pale flashed between trunks. An arm, a face, too quick to be certain. Yet he felt their attention, heavy and deliberate, pressing against the walls. Behind him, Emily rocked Lily on the floor. The girl's body twitched, her breath rattling in and out. It's okay, baby, Emily whispered. They can't have you. Mommy and Daddy are here. But Lily's voice fractured, trembling through clenched teeth. They want me back. They made me. Her words dissolved into sobs. David's chest constricted. He wanted to run to her, to hold her, but his instincts screamed to stay back. That wasn't just Lily anymore. Something else was speaking through her. A sharp knock rattled the window. David jerked, nearly falling. He peered out. A face hovered just beyond the glass, pale, eyeless, features stretched long and wrong. Its mouth opened slowly, impossibly wide, until cracks split its cheeks. He stumbled backward, heart pounding. Emily, we're not alone. Emily didn't look. She held Lily tighter, stroking her damp hair. They can watch all they want. She's not going back. The house creaked. Floorboards in the hallway groaned as though someone heavy walked just beyond sight. David snatched the fireplace poker, his knuckles white. We need to leave. Emily shook her head fiercely. She can't survive out there again. Look at her. Lily's body convulsed, spine arching sharply. Her eyes flickered, brown one moment, pure white the next. Her mouth opened and a chorus of whispers spilled out, overlapping. They are waiting. They are patient. They never lose what is theirs. The word S weren't Lily's. They carried the echo of something much older. Emily clamped her hands over the girl's ears as if that could stop it. Don't listen, she begged. But David's grip on the poker tightened. He couldn't ignore the shapes circling outside, the shadows pressing closer. The woods had come for payment. Glass shattered in the living room. Wind howled through the house, carrying the smell of wet moss and decay. David spun toward the sound, poker raised, chest heaving. Through the broken window slithered a limb, too long, jointed in the wrong places, coated in pale, bark-like skin. It clawed the air, searching. David swung the poker with a roar, smashing the limb. A shriek echoed from outside, so loud it rattled the lights in their sockets. The limb withdrew in a violent snap. Emily screamed. Lily thrashed harder, voice shrill. They're angry! Daddy, don't make them angry! David rushed back to the bedroom, slamming the door shut. He pressed his back against it, heart racing, listening to the scratching and pounding move along the walls. They're surrounding us, he gasped. Emily's eyes blazed with fury and desperation. Then we'll fight. They can't have her. Do you hear me? They'll never take her. Lily's chest rose and fell in ragged spasms. Her cracked smile spread slowly, unnervingly. They already have, she whispered. The pounding on the walls never stopped. Sometimes it was a scratching, like nails dragged across the siding. Other times it was heavier, deliberate, like fists striking the wood in steady rhythm. The house groaned with each impact. David pressed the bedroom door shut with his shoulder, poker raised. His muscles trembled. The noise outside the room was everywhere now, shifting from window to ceiling to floor. Emily still cradled Lily, rocking on the mattress. The girl's body twitched violently in her arms, sweat and blood soaking through the quilt. "It's okay," Emily whispered again and again, her voice fraying. "They can't come in." But David wasn't sure. The light bulb overhead flickered, buzzing like an insect. With each flicker, the shadows on the walls deepened, stretching, writhing, almost alive. Then the walls themselves shuddered, plaster cracked near the ceiling, dust sprinkling down. "Emily," David muttered, throat dry. "The house." He stopped. The walls shifted again, not like cracking wood, but like something breathing. The plaster swelled outward, then sank back, slow and steady, as if lungs filled with air. Lily lifted her head from Emily's chest. Her eyes gleamed, one brown, one milky. "They're inside already," she whispered. David's blood iced. The floor beneath his feet rippled faintly, warping under his weight like damp clay. He staggered back, clutching the poker tighter. Emily shook her head fiercely. "No, this is just them trying to scare us. They can't take her if we don't let them." The walls pulsed harder, a deep groan rumbling through the house. Cracks spiderwebbed outward, and through them seeped black moss, wet and reeking of rot. David gagged at the smell. "Emily, look at it. This place is rotting around us." But Emily kissed Lily's blood-stained hair. "She's the only thing that matters. Nothing else." A sudden bang rattled the door behind David, nearly knocking him off balance. He shoved harder against it, but a long, pale arm forced through the gap, clawing at the air. Its fingers scraped along the floorboards, leaving gouges. David swung the poker with all his strength. The limb snapped, black ichor spraying across the wood. A scream roared through the house, shaking the windows. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Emily gasped, clutching Lily tighter. David fumbled for his phone, but before he could switch on its light, the walls began to glow faintly. Not from electricity, something else. A greenish bioluminescence oozed from the moss, spreading in patterns like veins. In that dim light, David saw the walls moving again, more violently this time. Shapes pressed outward from inside, faces, stretched mouths, eyeless sockets bulging against the plaster. The house itself was becoming one of them. Lily giggled softly, an eerie, broken sound. "They like it here." David's stomach dropped. "Emily, we have to leave, now." Emily shook her head, her expression hard. "I'm not taking her out there. I don't care if the whole damn house falls in. She stays with me." The floor heaved beneath them like a living thing. Boards cracked, rising and falling in waves. From every direction, the watchers whispered through the walls, "Give her back." The whispers grew louder, weaving through the walls like wind slipping through cracks. "Give her back." David's heart hammered. He couldn't breathe. The floor undulated beneath him, buckling like the deck of a sinking ship. He grabbed the dresser for balance, knuckles white. Emily clung to Lily on the bed, refusing to let go. The girl's body spasmed in her arms, her face flickering between exhaustion and something unnatural. One moment she whimpered like a child. The next she smiled with blackened gums, whispering words that didn't belong in her mouth. David couldn't stand it anymore. "We're leaving. Now." Emily's head snapped up, hair wild, eyes glistening with fury. "No, she's weak. She can't survive out there again. Don't you dare try to take her from me." "She'll die if we stay," David shot back. "Look around you, Emily. This house is rotting alive." As if to punctuate his words, the ceiling above them cracked open with a thunderous groan. Plaster rained down. Through the split, David saw something writhing. Arms, legs, faces pressed together, wriggling as one. The stench of grave dirt and decay filled the air. Emily buried Lily's head against her chest. "Ignore them. They can't have her." David gritted his teeth, rage and terror burning through him. He rushed forward, prying Lily from Emily's arms. She screamed and clawed at him, nails raking his face. "Don't you touch her!" "Emily!" he roared, holding the trembling girl tight. "She's our daughter, but if we don't leave now, we're all dead." For a heartbeat, they stared at each other, breathless, trembling, both torn apart by fear and love. Then another bang shook the door, this time splintering it in half. A hand slithered through the broken wood, followed by another. Long gray fingers dragged across the floor, leaving trails of slime. That broke the stalemate. Emily scrambled off the bed, eyes wide. "Okay, go! Go!" David bolted into the hallway with Lily clutched against his chest. The girl twitched violently in his arms, alternating between clinging to him and pushing away. "Daddy, hurry!" she cried in her sweet, familiar voice. Then, with a guttural hiss, she added, "You can't escape." He ignored it. He barreled down the stairs, every step groaning beneath him as if the wood were trying to swallow his feet. The banister writhed under his grip, warm and pulsing like flesh. Emily followed close behind, clutching the hammer she'd dropped earlier. Her face was streaked with dust and blood, eyes blazing with desperation. The front door loomed ahead, but as David reached for the knob, the wood bulged outward. A face formed in the grain, eyeless, mouth wide, whispering, "She is ours." David roared, slamming his shoulder into the door. It didn't budge. He kicked, punched, slammed with the poker. Nothing. The wood pulsed with every strike, absorbing the blows. Behind them, the whispers grew louder. Shapes slid along the walls, peeling themselves free from the plaster. They were almost inside. Emily raised the hammer and swung with all her strength. The door cracked. She swung again. Again. With a final scream, she shattered the lock. The door burst open, wind and rain crashing through along with the sound of the forest laughing. David didn't hesitate. He sprinted into the storm, clutching Lily, Emily right behind him. But the trees were already waiting. The storm swallowed them whole. Rain slashed sideways, icy needles stinging their faces. The forest loomed like a black wall, branches clawing the air. David clutched Lily against his chest, his boots sinking into mud with every frantic step. Emily staggered behind him, hammer still gripped in her trembling hand. For a fleeting moment, he thought they had broken free. The house shrank into shadow behind them, its warped frame flickering with sickly green light. But the relief didn't last. The trees shifted. At first it was subtle, the trunks leaning ever so slightly toward them, branches creaking. Then the ground itself began to tilt, funneling them deeper, as though the forest had rearranged its bones. Emily skidded on the mud. "This way, back toward the road." But when David turned, the path was gone. Where there should have been an opening was now a wall of trees, woven tight with roots and brambles. The forest had closed like a trap. Lily stirred in his arms, her face pressed against his chest, one eye blinking up at him. "Daddy, you can't run." David's grip faltered. Her voice had been hers, soft, pleading, but the words, they weren't. Emily grabbed his arm. "Don't listen, just keep moving." They pushed forward, branches tearing at their clothes. Every tree seemed closer than the last, trunks pressing inward, bark slick with something wet. Whispering voices rose with the storm, threading through the leaves. "She belongs to us. Give her back." David shouted into the night, his voice breaking. "She's my daughter. You can't have her." The forest answered with laughter, high-pitched, shrill, echoing from everywhere at once. Emily stumbled, falling hard on her knees. She cursed, scrambling back up, hair plastered to her face with rain. Her hands shook as she pointed ahead. "David, look!" Through the shifting trees, a faint light glowed, warm, golden. It flickered like a lantern, swaying just beyond reach. Hope surged in David's chest. "That's it. Someone's out here." But Lily's body stiffened. Her nails dug into his shoulder, drawing blood. "Don't go," she hissed, voice layered now, half hers, half something older. "That's not for you." David hesitated, heart pounding. Emily shoved him. "It's our only chance. Move!" They stumbled toward the glow. Each step forward stretched the distance farther, like walking inside a nightmare where the goal never got closer. The trees warped around them, their bark etched with faces, mouths stretched open in eternal screams. David's strength began to falter. Lily felt heavier in his arms, as if the forest was pulling her down, dragging her roots into the soil. His knees buckled. "Emily, take her!" he gasped, but Emily shook her head violently. No, keep going! The lantern light flared brighter, then winked out. Darkness crushed them. The storm stilled. In the sudden silence, David heard breathing. Not his own, not Emily's. Heavy, wet animal breathing circling them in the black. Lily lifted her head slowly. Her cloudy eye glowed faintly white. Her lips curved into a broken smile. "They're here," she whispered, and from the shadows, dozens of pale hands reached out of the trees. They came from every direction, thin, pale hands pushing through bark as if the trees themselves were giving birth to them. Fingers too long, knuckles crooked, nails cracked and sharp. They reached greedily for Lily, writhing, clenching, stretching. David staggered back, clutching his daughter tighter. "Stay behind me!" he shouted to Emily, but Emily didn't move. She stood frozen, her hammer dangling uselessly at her side, eyes wide with horror. The forest groaned around them, alive with voices. "Return what is ours. She does not belong to you." David swung the poker wildly, smashing at the hands as they clawed closer. Each strike landed with a sickening crunch, spraying black ichor across his shirt. The hands recoiled but never stopped. For every one broken, two more slithered out from the wood. Lily whimpered in his arms, her body jerking. "Daddy, it hurts." Her small hands clutched his shirt, trembling. The sound shredded him. He tightened his grip. "I won't let them take you. Do you hear me? I won't." But even as he said it, her voice changed. It dropped lower, guttural, resonant with something that did not belong to a child. "You can't protect me. Not from them. Not from what I am." Emily finally moved. With a guttural cry, she swung the hammer into the nearest trunk. Wood splintered, black sap gushing like blood. A shriek echoed from the trees, shaking the ground beneath their feet. "Run!" she screamed. They bolted, mud splashing, branches tearing at their clothes. Hands snatched at them from every side, clawing hair and skin. One seized David's ankle, pulling hard. He fell to his knees, Lily tumbling from his grasp into the muck. "No!" he roared, kicking wildly until the bone-white fingers snapped. He scrambled forward, scooping Lily back up. Her face was smeared with mud, her eyes wide and glowing faintly. "Daddy," she whispered, almost sweet again. "It's too late." Emily grabbed his arm and hauled him up. "Don't listen! Keep moving!" The forest warped ahead. Trees bent aside, forming a narrow path lit by faint phosphorescent glow. It felt like bait, but there was no choice. They stumbled down it, chased by shrieks and laughter. The air grew colder with every step, heavy with the smell of damp rot. David's breath puffed in pale clouds. His muscles ached, vision swimming. He wasn't sure how much longer he could hold Lily. She seemed to weigh more with each passing second, her body unnaturally dense, as if the earth itself clung to her. At the path's end, they burst into a clearing. David froze. In the center stood a massive tree, ancient, twisted, its bark black as tar. Its trunk bulged with hundreds of shapes. Faces pressed into the wood, mouths gaping in silent screams, eyes wide and empty. The hands that had chased them slithered back into its surface, absorbed like water into soil. Emily clutched David's sleeve, trembling. What? What is this?" Lily wriggled from David's arms and staggered forward, her small hands pressed against the bark, caressing the screaming faces. Her milky eye glowed brighter. Her voice was calm now, almost reverent. "Home." The tree pulsed, and the forest whispered in unison, "Return her to us." The clearing pressed in with suffocating silence. Rain had stopped, though no sky showed above, only a tangle of branches, woven so tight they resembled a ceiling. The great black tree loomed in the center, its bark glistening as if wet with sap. But it wasn't sap. The smell was too sharp, metallic, like blood. David's arms ached from carrying Lily, yet his chest felt suddenly cold when she slipped from his grasp and walked toward the tree on her own. "Lily, no," he shouted, stumbling after her. Emily caught his arm. Her face was pale, eyes darting between the faces embedded in the trunk. Dozens, maybe hundreds, stared outward. Men, women, children, their mouths frozen in screams, their features twisted as though half swallowed. "It wants her," Emily whispered. "It's been waiting all this time." Lily pressed her palms against the tree. At once the wood shifted, indenting to meet her touch, as though the bark itself recognized her. The faces writhed, their mouths stretching wider. Low groans rolled through the clearing, the sound of voices long buried. David lunged forward, grabbing his daughter's shoulders. "You're not part of this. You're mine. You're ours." But Lily turned, her mismatched eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. One soft and human, the other white as bone. I was theirs before I was ever yours. The words hit him harder than any blow. His knees weakened. He shook his head violently. No, no, we raised you. We held you. Her smile cracked wider. You borrowed me. Emily shoved past David, tears streaming. Don't say that. You're our little girl. You love spaghetti with extra cheese. You cry when thunderstorms get too loud. You hold my hand when you're scared at night. That's real. That's you. For a moment, Lily's face softened, her lips trembling. Rainwater clung to her lashes, or maybe tears. But then the tree pulsed again, and her body jerked. I'd like a puppet tugged by strings. The whispers filled the clearing. Return her, she is bound. Roots broke the soil, writhing toward Lily's feet. David swung the poker, smashing at them. Black ichor spattered across his jeans, burning like acid against his skin. He hissed in pain but swung again, desperate. Emily fell to her knees, wrapping her arms around Lily's waist, pulling her back. She's not yours, she screamed into the bark. She's not. The tree responded with a roar like splitting stone. Dozens of faces bulged outward, their mouths gushing black fluid. The clearing shook violently, branches overhead thrashing though no wind blew. Lily's body convulsed in Emily's arms. Her voice came out layered, human and inhuman. If you love me, let me go back. It hurts being away. David's throat closed. He dropped the poker, falling beside Emily. He cupped Lily's mud-streaked face in his hands. No, we'll find a way. We'll fight them. Just don't leave us. Her small hands clutched his wrists, warm and trembling. For one terrifying second, David thought he saw his little girl again. Just his little girl. Then her white eye flared like lightning, and the tree opened. The tree split with a sound like ribs cracking. A seam tore open in its trunk, revealing a hollow that pulsed with green light. The faces embedded in the bark twisted toward the gap, their mouths moving in silent screams. From within the hollow came a stench of damp earth and rotting flesh, so thick it coated the throat. David pulled Lily back, but the roots surged faster, slithering around her ankles like snakes. They coiled tight, tugging her toward the gaping wound in the tree. She screamed, high, piercing, horribly human. Emily clung to her waist, straining, tears streaming down her mud-streaked face. Don't let go! Please don't let go! The forest roared. The whispers rose like a choir, overlapping, insistent. She is ours. She was promised. Return her. David's mind reeled. Promised? By who? His grip on Lily tightened until his arms shook with the effort. You can't have her! He screamed at the tree, voice breaking. She's not yours! But the hollow widened, and from its depths came movement, shapes half-formed, child-sized, skeletal. They crawled forward, eyes glowing dimly. Their bodies were wood and flesh entwined, like failed versions of whatever the forest was trying to make Lily into. Their thin voices echoed, join us, join us, join us. Emily shrieked, swinging the hammer at the nearest root. It shattered under the blow, black ichor splattering across her arm. The root writhed and retracted, but two more shot up in its place, wrapping around her legs. She hacked again and again, wild with rage and desperation. David's arms burned. His daughter was being pulled in two directions, by him and Emily on one side, and by the tree on the other. Her body convulsed, torn between identities. Her brown eye filled with tears. Her white eye blazed brighter. Daddy, she sobbed, voice small and breaking. I can't stop it. I'm sorry. David's heart split inside. His chest. You don't need to stop it, baby. I'll stop it for you, I promise. But he had no plan. His poker lay broken in the mud. Emily's hammer swung uselessly against endless roots, and the tree only grew stronger, its hollow expanding into a maw. From deep within that maw came a figure. It wasn't another warped child. This one was tall, its form clearer, more complete. A woman, long hair matted with moss, eyes glowing like embers. Her skin was carved with lines like bark. When she spoke, her voice was many voices at once. You took what belongs here, she said, stepping from the hollow. Your child was chosen, born marked. We only claim what is ours. David shook his head violently, refusing the words. No, she was born to us. She's ours. She's mine. The woman tilted her head. Then choose, mortal. Give her freely, or be buried with her. Emily's hand slipped on Lily's slick skin. She looked at David, eyes wide with terror and pleading. "David, what do we do?" For one terrible moment, time froze. The storm hushed, the forest held its breath, and David stared into Lily's eyes, one full of love, the other full of something endless and alien. The tree groaned, its hollow stretching wider, and David knew he had to decide. The clearing trembled as the tree's hollow gaped wider, glowing with sickly green light. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The woman of bark and bone stepped closer, her face both beautiful and hideous, carved from shadow and wood. Her many-voiced whisper rippled through the roots. Give her now." David's chest heaved. He still had Lily in his arms, but her body was half in his world, half in theirs. Her brown eye swam with tears, begging him not to let go. Her white eye blazed, pulling her toward the opening like a magnet. Emily clutched his sleeve. "David, please, we can't let them take her. She's ours. She's our little girl." The woman raised one hand. Roots shifted eagerly beneath her gesture, like hounds ready to spring. "She was never yours. She only wore your life like a mask. Return her, and you may live." David's mind broke into pieces. He saw memories flashing like lightning. Lily chasing fireflies, her laughter echoing in the yard. Lily curled against him during thunderstorms. Lily whispering, "I love you, Daddy," before sleep. Each memory stabbed him with love and terror. But then another thought clawed in. What if those moments weren't real? What if every smile had been borrowed, every hug stolen, a performance by something the forest had planted inside her? "No," he snarled through clenched teeth, tears burning his eyes. "I don't care what you say she is. She's mine. She's Emily's. She's our daughter." The forest shrieked in fury. Roots surged, wrapping around David's arms and legs, trying to rip Lily from his embrace. Emily screamed and swung her hammer wildly, smashing wood and bark, but for every root broken, 3 more replaced it. The woman stepped closer, her burning eyes fixed on Lily. "You cannot keep her, but you may join her. The tree will take you all, together." The ground split beneath them. Faces in the soil set upward, screaming silently as mud swallowed their mouths. The tree pulsed like a living heart, pulling them closer. Emily's strength was fading. Her arms bled from thorn cuts, her face twisted with despair. "David," she cried, voice breaking. "We can't win. We have to let her go." "No!" he roared. He pulled Lily tighter, fighting the roots. His chest burned, muscles tearing, but he refused. "I won't!" Lily's small hands pressed against his cheeks. For a moment, the forest fell silent. Her brown eyes softened, her voice the sweet, trembling sound of a child. "Daddy, I love you, but I don't belong with you, not anymore." "No, don't say that. Don't," she kissed his cheek, whispering, "It's okay." Then her white eye flared blindingly bright. The roots wrenched her from his arms. David screamed, clawing, bleeding, until Emily pulled him back, sobbing into his chest. The woman carried Lily into the hollow. The tree closed, sealing with a crack like bones snapping. The clearing fell silent. The forest stilled. Emily collapsed, shaking, her cries muffled in David's shirt. He held her, empty, staring at the black bark where his daughter had been swallowed. But as they staggered from the clearing, the whispers followed. "She is not gone. She is becoming." And deep inside the tree, one face among hundreds blinked. It was Lily's, and she was alive.